edition of the Stadium Journey podcast. For the full Stadium Journey experience, go to the website, stadiumjourney.com. Connect with us on all our social media channels. Find us at Stadium Journey. Audio versions of this podcast can be found by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on whatever your favorite place to find podcasts is. We're there. We're everywhere. Video simulcast of this podcast and all of our old ones can be found at the Stadium Journey YouTube page, and our classic back catalog can still be found at vocnation.com. And thanks to those of you in the studio audience today, but for those of you watching this at a later time, we record every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at danlaw.tv. And hey, we're happy to say the gang's all here tonight. Dave Cotney, ProFan 9, Mark Viquez, Ballpark Hunter, the other guy, Dan Calachico, Dan Law 83, and I am Paul Baker. You can find me at BuckmanRI. So tonight we are recording, as you can probably tell already, without a special guest. Tonight we are going to dedicate this podcast to the topic of fan conduct. So, right now, when you think of fan conduct, right now, I'm sure that you have all been bombarded lately with videos of fans fighting in the stands, or you can think back a few months when all the NBA players were having to be restrained from going into the stands because fans were throwing things at them. So let me start with the easy question. Is fan behavior getting worse?
I was just going to say real quick, it's weird that all those Philly fans would travel to all these different places and start fights. It's weird.
Yeah, it's all those Philly people.
Man. I don't know. Yeah, it got worse. It's gotten worse. That's my answer.
I'm not sure it's gotten worse. I think it's definitely fair to say that it's gotten closer to the action, and that the players are reacting to it more now. And also consider the era that we're in now versus previous era. So social media being what it is, those players they can react on their own. They don't even have to wait for a question from the reporter in the scrum or anything like that.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you guys right off the bat and say a lot of this, in my opinion, I mean, it's not great, but I don't think it's getting worse. I would agree that we see it more now, because I can think as a kid, I can think of the 1981 playoffs, Cedric Maxwell going into the stands at the Spectrum to beat the living crap out of some guy in plaid pants. I can remember Jim Rice climbing up into the stands at Yankee Stadium to chase some guy who took his hat when he went to go catch a foul ball.
Mike Milbury slapping somebody with a shoe.
Yes. The most legendary of them all. So I think this stuff has all been happening. I mean, fights in the stands have been happening, from day one. I mean, some of the worst fights I can remember. Going to San Francisco and seeing a giant brawl in the stands. Going to Charlotte in a preseason game and watching Titans and Panther fans in a preseason game beating the snot out of each other. So I don't think this is anything new. I think the age of social media puts it right in our faces.
All right, yeah. Well, you're probably right. I think it looks worse because of that. There's 24/7 surveillance now. It started picking up a little bit, kind of. You would think with the 24-hour news services in the 80s, and now it's picking up again because of all the everybody's got their own personal 24/7 little news service right in their hands, and instead of stepping in and stopping sometimes, like. Actually, I was going to bring up a pretty horrific story. I'll let that go. In Philly, where they just filmed it, instead of stopping it, you see everything now. Everything gets filmed. Everything gets reported, which is good or bad. Sometimes it's stupid. Tim Capper from YouTube says beer / intoxication equals fights.
Well, I mean, what was that 5-cent beer night in Cleveland in 1974? Could you imagine that happen now?
Oh my God.
All the footage we would have. Disco Demolicious 79.
Everybody would be in jail for at least the night.
Wow.
And we have footage of that. We have the live game and news features from that. So,
but here's something I would throw out at you. That we're seeing a lot more in the NBA lately. Right? I think it's the NBA stuff is a little bit more high profile. And knowing the cost of tickets now, I'm not sure we've ever seen like this kind of fan behavior from people with so much money. right? Like, back in the day, were tickets, that much? Like, was the gap between like Joe Average and courtside seats as big as it is now? Like, we're talking about,
Absolutely not. No.
high powered, like mucho dinero people sitting in the front row or the second row. Like, where was it? I'm Utah. There was a guy tossed out. He was sitting in like the front row. For, I don't know, he was talking smack or something to somebody, and that wasn't even throwing anything, or that was just talk. I'm not saying that it's justified, and I'm not saying that guy being tossed is wrong. It's absolutely right, but it just surprises me that it's happening as much in the NBA as it is, and so close to the action.
I wonder if remember that guy in Washington who was famous for just nonstop stream of vulgarity for the whole 2.5 hours? Is he still around? And would he be doing the same thing today?
I think that was part of the show. That was at a time when the NBA, I guess, needed some attention. Early 80s.
And if you were ever within earshot of that guy, holy cow, you had to wash your ears out with soap after the game.
Yeah, but he became quite popular. I remember MTV Rockin' Jams basketball had him. They brought him out to their inaugural game because he was just such a famous heckler. But yeah, I can only imagine the things he was saying. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened to him if he's still around. But I remember going to see Yankee games in the bleachers back in the late 80s, early 90s, and the stuff they would say to the opposing right fielder was vicious.
Yeah,
I remember, had kids there. Guys would bring their kids there.
I remember the fights in the old Foxborough Stadium, and when I was in high school, none of our parents would let us go to the games, so we would have to sneak up to Foxborough to go to a Patriots game and part of the fun was watching the drunks in the end zone fight it out.
My stepfather, I have no idea how I was allowed to. My stepfather would drive me to around the corner where the Spectrum was and let me walk. And then he'd pick me up at the same corner. Don't know how I was allowed to do that. The basketball thing, an observation. To not get into a too deep philosophical discussion. With social media and fans being outspoken, players are also more outspoken and getting how they believe and their personal beliefs out there. And recently, with the protests and the Black Lives Matter and all that stuff that has kicked into a fever pitch, and with good reason, I have found that a lot of fans, not just basketball, just using that as an example, treat or think of players as a commodity or an owner thing. You work for me. You play for me. I pay your salary. You do what I say. You're not allowed to have feeling. You're not allowed to have thoughts on this. Whether or not we like LeBron James, I compare it to Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby is one of the greatest hockey players that's ever lived. I just said that. It hurt my soul. It's true, though. Period. LeBron James is one of the greatest basketball players that has ever lived. Period. End of story. If you sit there and because you don't like what he has to say and he sucks, he should just be a burger flipper without us, and that's not how that works at all. So social media is making a lot of people brave when one might only want equal rights.
What's interesting is you brought up commodity, that the players or the fans are treating players like commodities.
Yeah.
To me, the players created that. How did that? I have to build my brand, right?
Sure.
How much of brand building is involved in where a player plays? Like, look at that nut job LeVar Ball, right? And just trying to work his way to get his kid into LA and whatnot, and it's all brand. And you hear, like Nick Nurse, the head coach of the Raptors, has his own logo, right? These players have become consumable. They want to be consumable. until you hurt their feelings, and then they want to tell you that they're people, right? But we don't buy people, yet we're supposed to buy players. It's a really weird dichotomy, I think.
That doesn't mean you own that player. You have a choice to buy on into that brand. You could simply just not buy into it. But once you give that player money, that doesn't give you ownership over that person.
Absolutely. But one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard is why when a player leaves through free agency, as a fan, I should just, smile and be happy for them and thank them for everything that's happened
that's
before.
Different.
Like,
you're allowed to be emotional about you can be absolutely angry about the game, about the player leaving your team. You could absolutely be emotional, but there's a line that's crossed daily. Bringing up the Ben Simmons thing. We've all heard it. Dave and I had conversations, for years about how the Sixers are never going to win a championship with Ben Simmons on that team. Isn't that funny how that's working out right now with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid together? And I was like, no, it's fine. But whether or not I was angry, and I was mad, it's all, I can't deny it, all over social media. How mad I didn't curse him out, didn't call him names. How mad I was at that performance against the Hawks at the end of the playoffs of last year. In no world did I cross the line where I decided to tell him what he should do, how he should do it, and where to shove it. And you know what I mean, guys. You know the things that are slinged at I don't have to elaborate. But I was mad for a day and a half. And then I was like, well, let's see what happens in the off season. The stuff I've seen said about the guy, you don't know him like that. You're not his family. Calm the fuck down. Pardon my French. I'm not editing that out. Sorry, guys. But calm down a little bit. This is coming from me. I'm telling you to calm down. Never once have I never
if
once.
Dan's telling you to calm down, it's bad.
Never once have I gone personal. Never once have I gone personal with it. Never once have I taken a personal swipe at an athlete because I didn't like a play that they made.
So what we're talking about, is this an extension of the overall climate that social media has created? Is this just an extension of that, where people have, it seems like we've lost our civility to some extent, where because people are behind a keyboard, they can be safe and they can be nasty and they can be inappropriate with no repercussions?
Yeah,
I think it started before that though, and social media has definitely proliferated that, and being able to say whatever you want because you're supposedly faceless has gone beyond that. But the idea, I think, to me, the idea where, because we're talking about two different things, right? Like when you're talking about drunk people getting into fights in the stands, that's not what we're talking about. This is a whole different ball game. And to me, that really started, and I don't know where it started exactly, but it started with the idea that I'm a fan, I bought this ticket, and I have rights. I'm a fan, I bought this ticket, I can say what I want.
The customer is always right, which is wrong.
Right?
Hey, my mom's watching. Hi, Mom.
Customer's
Hi,
only
Mom.
wrong.
Customer's always an a-hole.
As a fan, I think freedom of speech is one of the funniest things. I mean, as a Canadian, we don't have full on freedom of speech, quote unquote, as the Americans do.
Freedom of speech is not what people think it is.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. But freedom of speech is and being able to hide behind that. I don't know.
Freedom of speech in America is being able to walk up to a black basketball player and say the N-word and not think there's any consequences for that. And that's not how freedom of speech works.
That's just stupidity.
That is stupid.
Yeah.
But I've seen it happen.
I've heard guys and this is in minor league baseball. When somebody's out there asking for an autograph and somebody won't do it. F you, your wife's a slut. What? Because he will not sign your baseball. Because he will not sign your Pawtucket Red Sox baseball card.
Oh, my favorite stigma.
These are grown men, not kids.
Grown men, yes. I'm not talking about kids.
Well, they're there
Before
with
I-
their giant baseball book. Show me autograph, and they're flopping all over the place. Oh,
before
This is part of his job. Nope.
before I moved down to this area, the and Greg, I'll bring your point up here in a second. The party line about Alexander Ovechkin was that he is a garbage human who doesn't care about the fans, and that was because one guy said he wouldn't sign his autograph. And then you find out because the guy waited for him after an 8-hour practice in the parking lot, and Ovi was like, "No, I'm going home." It's like, wait a minute. That's not how that works at all. These are still people. Greg says, I was bringing up the social media thing. Greg says, I have a couple things. First of all, Greg says, I once called Aubrey Huff a death spreading moron on Twitter, but I wouldn't do that just for having a bad game. No, Aubrey Huff is a moron, but that's neither here nor there. Tim Capper says
Aubrey Huff works hard to cultivate that image, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's his
part of
you
his
talk
brand.
About,
that's part of him making money. Yeah, exactly.
That's his brand, exactly. That's it. He loves it, though, but he is a
Candace Owens wants to invade Australia.
No comment. I totally lost it. Tim Capper says it's true that social media has shed a brighter light on fan fights. Oh my God. See, it was no secret when you go to an Eagles game, there'd be like 6 or 7 fights in the crowd, and 9 times out of 10, when the fight was over, they'd be spread out, they'd be separated, and everybody moved on. And some would go to the jail, or someone would get arrested.
My favorite part of working for the Patriots was walking by Gillette Jail at the end of the day and seeing all the drugs passed out in there.
Jim Capper has a question. I don't know if you want to save this for the end. Here's a question for the group. Which sport has the worst fans?
Arena football.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Man,
Montreal Alouettes.
Holy Jesus.
Montreal when they win or lose the Stanley Cup.
My God.
Worst is in what way, Tim?
I'm kidding.
I guess most misbehave. He says it's soccer, especially in Europe. Those fans are nuts.
Yeah, English soccer fans. Yes.
I'll tell you who's bad. And Purple Flavored Trash in the chat just said it. Purple said it.
Southern Professional Hockey League fans.
Wrestling fans. I know it's not.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Dan.
I know it's not a sport, but being on either side of the guardrail, as they say, it's just pretty bad. It's really bad. A lot of things came to light during pandemic about speaking out and assault and abuse that was going on in wrestling in training schools by talent to fans to other wrestlers, and the idea of most fans are anyway. I still like this guy even though he's a piece of garbage.
In my opinion, like I can't really say too much about European soccer fans because that's really out of my realm of experience.
How dare you?
My experience, like in the stands,
Dave, this is a podcast. You're not supposed to go on experience and logic.
Oh, no, my experience in the stands, I would say the NFL.
I would agree. And like somebody said earlier, I think it was Tim said, alcohol.
Exactly. Totally.
NFL fans have not done themselves favors since a certain quarterback kneeled because God forbid he wanted to make a name for something.
I can tell you this. I have had more beer thrown at me at international soccer matches than maybe like 2-to-1 ratio compared to Philadelphia fans, but it could be soccer fans.
We're not even good at that.
Could be soccer fans.
Well, from my days working at a stadium, country music festivals are the worst place.
Not Genesis fans.
No, the country fest was, you hated working country fest. Anyway, sorry, Mark, I jumped in on you there.
with a singer. So it's I never thought. That's a good question, Tim. I've never had that thought. Who has the worst fans?
I'm sticking to. I'm putting my hat in officially for wrestling fans. They're pretty terrible. People are pretty terrible. I mean that. I would put them against football. Maybe not international. So I think football would take the cake.
Are the
on that
days
one.
of hooliganism still with us in European soccer? You don't hear about that anymore.
Well, that was more England. England was the one who were the ones having a lot of problems with the fans, or they would build these stadiums that everybody would just crowd into and crush people. That was a big travesty.
Well, there's been plenty of European tournaments or whatever or matches over the years where
England wasn't allowed.
They'd close the border or whatever. You're English, sorry, you can't come in now.
Yeah, and if you go to some England games, there's like if you're a away supporter, you have to go through a different exit entrance. You have to walk a different path. Like they don't mingle. You go to an NFL game. If I go to a Colts Jet game, Jet fans are mingling. You may hear some rubbing, but nothing major. That doesn't normally happen in the English Premier League. Correct me if I'm wrong out there. Based on some of the research I've done, if you're a away supporter, you sit in a certain section. If you want a beer, you have to get that before the game or at halftime.
Is there a little moat separating them too?
Some stadiums are built like that. I remember being in Argentina at River Plate and seeing a moat with a tall fence because some fans would rush onto the field because Boca Juniors and River Plate hate each other. Those are the two rivals. And there's a good episode called Rivals. It was on Spike TV. They did a nice episode on how that club's run. And you're like, wow, it's insane.
Two things. Tim Capper says, I also think 45 emboldened people too.
45 emboldened people.
The president, number 45.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
He absolutely did. I said I think he stoked the flames of people who would otherwise keep it to themselves.
He made them proud.
Make him Greg says even in MLS, if you're an away supporter, they make you stay in the stadium for a half an hour after the game ends. Do they?
In MLS?
No.
I've never seen that.
No, they don't.
Where was
I've
this
never seen it.
Where was this at? I need some.
I used to work Revolution games all the time.
Well, maybe in New England.
Yeah.
We're
those 30 people, they could leave whenever they wanted.
He said in Orlando. Well, it is Florida.
I could see that at some venues. I could maybe see that in Portland if Seattle's in town or vice versa. I could see Cincinnati and Columbus with a big rivalry.
Doesn't that give people just time to go to their cars and get their weapons?
I can see that. I know Cincinnati and Louisville hate each other. They don't play in the same league anymore.
If you're fighting over Major League Soccer, something's wrong with your life.
There's passion.
We've sort of slagged on soccer and we've slagged on football here, but I think at the very least we do need to mention the Giants versus Dodgers fans, where tragically, sadly, it's really gone to a whole new level. And honestly, I feel, and maybe it's just because we're East Coast people, Midwest East Coast people, I feel kind of underreported. When I forget which way it was, whether it was a Giants fan.
Brian Stowe, who was a Giants fan at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, it was reported, but wow, when something like that happens to that level, I feel Major League Baseball has to really come out and do something, or the Dodgers and Giants need to really make a statement about what's going on. Giants need to really make.
Sorry,
I'm hearing myself in the background. Wow, that was crazy.
This is because my fat thumbs hit the other button, but still said, "You want to watch this video," and I don't.
But yeah, when you had some of the Black Lives Matters things where those teams would come together in the center and sort of intermingle, a statement like that, I don't recall seeing the Giants and Dodgers doing something like that.
I think they did, but I could be wrong. I thought they did.
And like I said, maybe they did, and it's just I'm over here in the East and asleep before anything happens over there. I don't know.
Tim Capper says the CF Montreal fan section was banned from the stadium this year.
Well, there's an interesting
the logo
point.
change, right?
The in Toronto, Toronto FC actually had a supporters group that was I don't know what decredited, discredited. I don't know what you would want to say. They were called like immobiliari or something like that, or inebriati. Inebriati. Right? That tells you everything you need to know about that supporters group. But they went to, I think, Ottawa. I think they had like a Canadian championship game in Ottawa or something like that. And, they were throwing fireworks places and whatnot. And the team and the other supporters groups got together and basically banned this supporters group. So it was dissolved. So, hey, CF Montreal fans are probably upset that they're still the Club de Foot.
Is that it feels like they have really hated that name change, which there's some elements I do like about it, but you're right. Montreal Impact. I mean, can you imagine being a supporter group and being banned because you don't like the new name or the new logo? That's
who knows.
Those are crazy fans, but
who knows?
Passionate.
Okay, so we've kind of slagged on like a little bit of everybody here.
That's everybody sucks.
Let's where have you seen where the fans are really adding to the experience, where they're part of it that makes it so great?
I would say a soccer match. I mean, I would say soccer match. I would say for me, a high school basketball game in Indiana, where you have the student section coming out in droves and they're dressed in gear because they all get together and they say, we need to dress up as something that is like we'll wear Western outfits or we'll wear sports jerseys, and they're doing push-ups and cheering and chants. Like for Indiana high school sectional tournaments, it is amazing to see that. If you look at my Newcastle Fieldhouse video, I showcase some of that in top form because it's a whole group of kids, 100, 200 kids, and then you have the other school's 200 kids, and they're going back and forth with chants, and nobody is saying anything negative or disrespectful. You're just trying to outdo the others, and I'm sure that's like that at the college basketball scene. I've seen it in IU and Butler, but I definitely pops up during sectionals for me when I'm at high school games.
Now I've heard that, and I haven't experienced this or really seen it, but I've heard that like Duke fans, take it like kind of the opposite way and take it a bit too far. My experience, I still remember the first time I went.
Slander tonight. Okay.
I still remember the very first time I went to a college football game and was absolutely shocked at how fan friendly and family friendly the experience was. Far more women were going to the game, far more kids were going to the game than I had ever seen at like at an NFL game. Now, I can't say I've been to any huge rivalry games in college football where, I think it can get a little bit too far and get a little nasty. But, I mean, I've been at places. I remember going to Akron, and they played against Marshall, and there was a big contingent of Marshall fans there, and they were doing their We Are Marshall thing. And, it was fine. Everybody was fine. Some of the best experiences I've had at bowl games, the Citrus Bowl or the Gator Bowl, and you kind of see the other team's fans at the end, and it's like, yeah, good game. Oh, that was great. And it wasn't this rivalry that it was on the field, and so I've had great experiences with college football, and I'm not sure if everybody has had those experiences. Wisconsin was amazing. The people there were fantastic around us. Paul and OV, the one we just did, I said, the people around us at Boston College were fantastic. They were welcoming and so much fun. Even Ohio State, like I had fun at Ohio State, and I wasn't worried about people around me, cursing and swearing and falling over drunk or anything like that. Like I said, maybe it was just my experience, Maybe I was far enough away from the student section, but those college football experiences have been wonderful for me.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing with like college basketball. Going to some college hockey games, going to college football, you see a certain element there that I don't see at the professional ranks. You see the student sections, you see the alumni, you see an element that makes you say, yeah, I'm at a college game. This is something different. When I went to the Grey Cup in '96, I saw a unique element there that stuck with me. You saw fans from all over the country wearing their team gear, running around, just whooping it up, having a party, having a good time. They were just there to see a good football game. Obviously, I think some folks were wanting Flutie to win, being so close to Toronto, but others who were from Hamilton probably didn't want to see that. So there was that was my first and only experience. I don't know what a Super Bowl would look like. I'm thinking, a Super Bowl would be similar. It'd probably be a lot different, maybe be a lot more corporate, but I would say the college ranks and definitely the high school ranks for me, I see a huge difference compared to going to a Colts game or a Jets game or a White Sox game, things like that.
Yeah, Grey Cup is sure unique. Like you'll see, Calgary and Toronto in the Grey Cup, and you'll see, there's a whole whack of Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans, and there's a whack of Saskatchewan Rough Rider fans, and they're all decked out in their own gear, and it's just one big party, and everybody's having a good time, and from wherever.
Right. Yeah, I think Tim agrees with that. Let us know. And if you watch those old Grey Cup videos on YouTube, they show some of the, like they just don't show highlights of the game. They show the fans, the parade, the pageantry, things of that. So it's it's a different element compared to the Super Bowl.
One of the things that bothers me the most about fans that I've experienced, but 99 times out of 100 is positive, is going to junior hockey. Usually great fans, but it really, really bothers me when people are yelling and screaming at the guys playing and just taking it too far, because you're like, this is a 17-year-old kid, man. Like, relax, Like I said, 99% of the time, it's great. You're there for your guys, and a lot of the season ticket holders, like, they view it as like family, and of course you get like the billet families that are in there and everything, and so it does have that kind of family feel to it. But when you get some rear end who's yelling and screaming at some 17-year-old or 18-year-old kid, and just like taking it way too far, it really kind of stands out, and you're like, buddy, like, get a life,
I don't know. I kind of extend that to any sporting event. If you're at a sporting event where you're supposed to be there to enjoy the game, and it's affecting you to the point where you're going to get into a fight and you're going to endanger your livelihood or spend the night in jail or something like that, or blow thousands of dollars because of some stupid thing you did, reevaluate your life choices.
Of all the hockey games I was ever at, I only almost got into a fight one time. And it was an AHL showcase game against the Hershey Bears and the Admirals in D.C. There wasn't even NHL teams involved, but I had just gotten my Chris Pronger, that's how long ago, Flyers captain Winter Classic jersey. I had just gotten it. So I'm like, well, the Caps and the Flyers aren't playing, and I don't care about the Bears or the Admirals. I'm going to wear this. It's brand new. I want to wear it. I go there. Nobody said a word. The usher was making fun of me because I was a Flyers fan. That's as far as it went. He's like, you're in the wrong building for that, son. I was like, I know, I'm going to have to help me. And, but one dude, we were at the top of the bottom bowl, or like midsection between where there's those mid luxury boxes, I guess. And there was a dude up at the top yelling at me like, "It seems not even playing tonight." And he's 3 sheets to the wind, and he's wearing a Capitals jersey. And I looked up, I said, "Your team's not playing either, stupid." He goes, "I'm going to come down there." I'm like, "Come down here." Never saw me. I don't think he ever made it down the stairs.
He jumped from the balcony.
Actually,
I chose my hat on purpose today, and mostly just to razz Dan. And I think
Bastard.
we've all seen games in Philadelphia. I mean, to me,
Sorry.
holy, so overblown the stories, right? Like, oh my gosh, Philly
Depends.
fans are the worst. Blah blah blah. I haven't seen any of that.
Depends.
I've gone to the Phillies maybe 2 or 3 times. I've seen the Flyers. I've been to the Sixers a couple times. I've been.
They
to
were in the
Union.
jersey of the opposing team.
No bullshit. I've been.
Wait a second. Is this the nacho cheese portion of our podcast coming?
Nacho cheese, Fig Newtons.
I'm sorry. I don't believe. Mark, I love you. I don't believe one iota that you were not giving them shit back, and that it
The Philly
escalated. I don't
fanatic
believe it.
came up and harassed me.
Good. I'm glad he did. The Philly fanatic deserved to harass you. No.
Well, yeah, they were saying stuff. We were saying stuff back to them.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
but I was at an indoor lacrosse game. And I had Fig Newtons and peanuts thrown at me. And
If
New
somebody
York's
threw,
trash,
if
New
somebody
Jersey's
threw,
trash.
New York
That was
is
an indoor
trash. So
lacrosse
is New
game.
Jersey. If somebody threw Fig Newtons at me, I'd pick up. Well, maybe if they didn't hit the floor, I'd
They were
grab
hard.
them.
They
Eat
were
'em.
brought in there
All right.
to throw at people. They were not
Good.
there to. They were not there to enjoy the tasty cookie.
The Altoona Curve mascot harassed me once because I said the Chompers was the better mascot. How dare you?
Well, that's why he harassed you, Greg.
No, I've been to so many games at the Vet, like different Philly venues. Things happen, but I've never been witness to a thing where a bad thing has ever happened in a Philly game. Flyers, Phillies, Eagles. By the time Eagles fans are so drunk by the end of the games these days that they don't even care. It's just like they're 1-5. I don't care. But yeah, the closest I ever got to a fight was that it was in DC twice.
I'm gonna blow your mind here. Some of the worst I've seen live and in person. Toronto Blue Jays.
Really?
Yep, absolutely.
They keep
think
DMing
about
their
it.
friends
Look at
that
it.
live in Philly about Joe Carter, and they don't want to hear about it. You're the worst.
I let you off the hook this year, pal.
No, you did.
Totally.
You did. You tried. You baited me, and I was like, I'm not doing it.
I did not bait you. I did not put your name
But
on anything.
But I saw you share it, and I was
You
like,
happened-
God damn it, Dave.
You just happened to. Last year, I tagged you on it. So.
You did. You did tag. Last year, he tagged me on it. I was like, I'm gonna touch all of something.
But seriously, watch that crazy. I think it was what 7th inning, 8th inning with with the bat flip. Watch that. The amount of crap that is flying from the stands is ridiculous. And when it seems that whenever you get into that sellout range in Toronto for the Jays, you have a bunch of people who don't really know baseball, who don't know the etiquette of baseball, who are there to, say they were there, and suddenly this stuff flies on the field, right? And that's, to me, that's probably like the worst part when you're there is when the stuff starts flying.
I want to bring it back around to wrestling for a second. The mid to late 90s, this is how I don't understand anyone wasn't arrested. There was this time there at the end of every WCW Monday Nitro where all the trash that had been accumulated in the arena that night was in the ring at the end of the night. Like thrown. I don't know how nobody was arrested for that. Mean Gene Okerlund got his nose broken with trash once. I've never seen that's where I'm like, wait, you guys know this. You guys are the ones that know it's a show. Why are you throwing trash in that ring? People got to clean that now.
But now it's all in one spot.
Yeah.
Just making the janitor's job easier.
Yeah. We can just go in the ring and clean it up. I don't know. I've seen some rings. Man, I know. Wow. I've seen some rings that I wouldn't take a bump on with a shirt on, let alone that in the late 90s. all the coke and everything going around. Never mind. Anyway,
Worst thing you've ever seen happen in an arena.
the worst I've seen happen in arena is the night Bernie Perrant got passed over by some guy named Brodeur.
Marty Brodeur.
Brodeer. I forgot who he was. I forgot what team he played for. Well, I'm so glad I was there that night. But he passed Bernie Perrant for wins, and there we're at the last row in the center. The last row. The only thing behind us is the wall of the arena. And it's me, an empty seat where the person whose tickets I bought didn't come. 2 Devils fans wearing Devils and Giants gears, and Flyers fans all around. And these guys started chanting, Bernie Perrant sucks. F you, Bernie. Where are you, Bernie? All this stuff. And I saw a guy climb 3 rows up and say, you better watch your back in the parking lot. And then other fans were like, yeah, you better get escort to the parking lot. To the point where at the end of the game, I hauled ass out of there. I was like, I'm out. I'm getting nowhere near this. I ran. I've never run that far. I ran behind the center, behind the link, into the Jetro, through the fence, into the car, got the hell out of there. I'm like, I'm not being a witness to any of this. I'm out of there. I don't know what happened. I never heard a news story about it. But I was like, oh, guys. Oh, I was moving over. I was like, oh.
I've seen fights in the park a lot at the Meadowlands after a hockey game, whether it was Devils or coming out of a Giants or Jets game, mostly the hockey games. I would tell you this, the craziest thing I saw was at a Saprissa game in Costa Rica. And
dinosaurs, you saw dinosaurs, right?
We saw the purple monsters, yeah.
No, because the Costa Rica Jurassic Park, never mind.
Oh, okay. Well, now their logo is a dragon, which sometimes looks like a dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, yeah, I was like, oh, you knew that. That's the big purple monster. So anyway.
No, I was going for a nerd jerk.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. The dinosaurs. Anyway, we're on the bus, and I don't know what happened. It was the bus was packed, and there was an argument. All of a sudden, a fist fight broke out, and the bus stopped, and a bunch of fans just picked up this one guy and tossed him out the bus. And they just moved on, and everybody went back to business.
Bye.
And my mom and my dad were there. My mom's like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" My dad's like, it's okay now."
That's
and they
funny.
just went back their business. And when we got off the bus, my dad goes, "What happened?" And he's like, "Yeah, we had to get him out of here, you know." Yeah. So,
sorry, go ahead.
Crazy.
No, real quick, I just wanted to read Tim and Greg. Greg says, when I went to a Phillies game, the car parked next to me had New Jersey plates. When I got back after the game, his tires were slashed. I've seen that before. There is not a game that I left in the 90s and early 2000s where if I saw New York or if it was a New York team or a Jersey team and one of the that their tires weren't slashed or there was broken beer bottles under the tire. That I've seen. I see that every time.
Cars, yeah.
What about what Tim Capper says? What about what happened on Tennessee recently when the Tennessee fans throwing at the Ole Miss head coach?
Oh, well, the Ole Miss head coach was Lane Kiffin, who was the Tennessee coach for about 5 minutes until he decided he wanted to go to USC. I don't remember exactly what happened there.
Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
So anyway, I got kind of 2 sort of different ones. I said to me the worst thing I saw, and it was really kind of heartbreaking. One year at opening day for the Jays, they sell the place out like crazy, and they were using like every possible spot. So we were up in the 500s at the back and spent way too much money for that because it's opening day. And there was a guy who was there, I think with his mom. He was handicapped in like a really big chair. Did not have. I don't know exactly what was wrong with him, but he did not have full control of his functions. He was the kind of guy that you look at and you go, "Wow, I feel lucky to have my health," kind of thing. And somebody threw. This is going to sound silly, but somebody threw nacho cheese and hit this guy with the cheese cup or whatever. So that was probably like the lowest thing I ever saw. The scariest, I think, I was at one year the Yates Cup, and I want to say 04. I think it was 04. And the Yates Cup is the Ontario Conference champion for football in Canadian University football. So it was at Laurier, and we Laurier were winning, and it was clear we were going to win. And coming close to the end, it was clear that some folks behind us were wanting to rush the field, and they were planning on going straight down the bleachers instead of going to where the stairs were. And you just kind of felt this wave of people sort of pushing, and that was probably the scariest feeling that I had ever had at a game involving like fan behavior.
That would be pretty scary. Worst fight I ever saw. Actually, we look back at it fondly now when we talk about it. Late 90s at the Dunkin' Donuts Center. At one corner of the rink, you got two opposing groups who just started going at it and charging at each other. And you saw guys getting thrown over rows and other guys climbing over seats to get at other guys. It got to a point at one point where the players in a play stoppage were watching what was going on in the stands with one of those what the hell looks. The reason why we remember this fondly is because it turns out that these were two church groups.
I reminds me of that scene in The Life of Brian where it's the two groups that do the same thing, but they were opposing each other. Splitters!
So, we've talked for a while here about negative things that happen between fans and players, fans and other fans. Do we need to correct this course? And if so, what are some things that should happen to make sports more inclusive, more welcoming, less violent? Let's get
here. I say the players should be allowed to punch somebody in the face when they cross the line. It's like in wrestling, right?
Like Jermaine O'Neal.
Well, yeah, but no. When a fan goes over the guardrail and into the ring, fair game. It's over. You better get caught by the referee before you get caught by like Macho Man. I've seen Macho Man straight up punch dudes that have approached him in the ring. Pop down.
Wasn't there a great scene where somebody and I'm pretty sure it was Philly at a Phillies game, they decided they were gonna run the field or streak or whatever, and the security was like, yeah, enough of this, we're not gonna chase this guy, and they just tased him.
Yeah. Yep.
To me, that's if there's a streaker, that's the part I want to see. I want to see the guy get taken down.
I want to see it flop.
I want to see him
run
past some player who just clotheslines him, and
Unfortunately, the only time I've seen somebody run onto the field was during the outdoor classic at Citizens Bank Park between the Phantoms and the Bears. There's some guy in one of those, I believe this is real, fake Flyers Quakers jersey that was made. People thought it was going to be an old Philadelphia Quakers jersey instead of what it was. He ran over the guardrail and got caught immediately. And I was like, well, that was boring. He didn't even go anywhere.
I remember a Bills game where a guy rushed the field and ended up with more yards rushing than the Bills did. He had about 95 yards before they got him, and the Bills were playing the Saints that day. They were absolutely horrid.
But no, I think I'm joking about the violence thing, sort of, but I do think there should be. Well, if you want to talk about this guy, you should be able to meet him face to face and say it right to his face. Have fun. Even playing field on that point. You know what I mean?
I'm all for the ban for life thing that they're talking about. My worry is that it's just not enforceable.
Right.
Like, does security have like wanted posters up there? Or this man shall not.
You could ban somebody from life from a bar or a restaurant, but I think a stadium you can say it, but I'm sure it's hard to enforce unless you have, like, every year you're going to have to train people and go, this guy, Jim, don't let him in. Okay.
My brother-in-law and I, we laugh all the time. Every homecoming, there was this one homecoming at Laurier when a dude, all you have to say is one word: sweater vest. This dude in a sweater vest just was totally plastered, was being a complete ass, ended up getting thrown out. And then 20 minutes later, we see him back in again. Same guy, no sweater vest, right? So it makes you wonder, like, I'd love to know that, like, that dude in Utah, you know, has gone up and has been turned away. I don't know. I just don't think that it's plausible. I don't think it happens. And if it does, you know, get your conspiracy theories out where, you know, at basketball arenas, they have facial recognition, you know, software and
yeah, I was gonna say it might come to that where
watching.
It might come to that where big red light goes on as you try to walk in, like, yeah, sir, you were banned in 2008. Get out. Greg says there was a Dutch soccer game a few years ago where a fan ran onto the field holding a knife and ran straight at the goalie, who tripped him and pinned him to the ground until security arrived. Then the ref gave the goalie a red card, and the team walked off off the field in protest.
Actually,
wow.
You know, that line, that story sort of sparked a memory, and where it, like, really scary, where that dude, I forget which tennis match it was or which tennis tournament it was, but he came down and he stabbed
Monica
Seles.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets, you know, scary.
At that point, I'm okay with 30 people stomping you. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I said it. It's on record. At that point, you deserve a stomping.
Or at the White Sox game about 20 years ago, you had the father and son attack.
Right after the first base coach.
The first base coach for the Royals, I believe. And,
and
their attitude was, he had it coming. He was.
It was like a 75-year-old guy. Yeah.
No, he didn't. Chicago. You mentioned Chicago. I like breaking this up. Not the White Sox. The White Sox I don't have anything against the White Sox. I used to love Robert Ventura. The Cubs. We talk about fan base. We can't go a show without mentioning Steve Bartman. And what the fans ruined his life. Period. There's no debate on this. I don't think any of you three will disagree with me. They've ruined his life.
It was all part of their lore of great disappointments.
It's all
Billy
this guy's
Goat, Black
fault.
Cat now,
and Steve Bartman. But they ruined his life, and I'm like, that's a line crosser. Like, it had nothing to do with him.
And how many years did it take for some of those players to say, well, wait a second, you know, we could have won the next game.
20 years too long, Dave.
We could have not given up many runs after that.
Moises Alou said, I don't think I was going to be able to catch that ball. Of course, he says that years later. He also used to pee on his hand.
He had to do it too late.
And we just had you know, PTI's 20th anniversary, and
oh god,
how long did it take for Mr. Chicago to actually say, okay, enough's enough, right? Like, and he would sort of passively aggressively, you know, refer to this incident, you know, well, I know it's silly, but, you know, I just can't help but blame the guy. Or like, really? Come on, seriously?
Who's Mr. Chicago?
Mike Wilpon.
Wilpon? Yeah, Mike Wilpon. Well, it's just like, was it Alex Gonzalez was their shortstop that year for the Cubs? He muffed an easy double play that would have ended that inning, and no one.
That son of a bitch, Bartman.
No one talks about that. They let up 8 runs. They lost the next game when they were up 3-0. You know,
I can't recommend the ESPN 30 for 30 on Bartman.
That's what made me mad all over again, Paul.
Such an incredible show.
That made me mad all over again. I'm like, you know what? The Cubs don't deserve this. I don't care how mad that makes them. You don't deserve that.
And what the Cubs did, especially, before they won the World Series finally, is that they were just laming. They would just get upset over things. They still talked about the Black Cat in 1969 and the Billy Goat and the curse of it and, you know, Leon Durham and all these things that happened. and where you had White Sox fans who just got over it. They had the Black Sox scandal. They had a terrible pennant 67 where they had to win. They lost 5 in a row to the worst teams in the league and allowed the Red Sox to pull ahead. Then they didn't sit there and complain about it. And Steve Bartman was just part of that lineage of yes, let's here's another reason why we lost the game and failed to make it to the World Series. Steve Bartman. And I don't know. What is he doing these days?
He's hiding still.
Is he still hiding?
He still hides, even though they're didn't he get a World Series ring from the
No,
Cubs?
I think
they tried to give him one and he just said to shove it.
Yeah, I think he told him to shove it up their ass, which
really.
And I think he may have used those
dude,
words.
he ruined his life. He had to quit his job and move and sell his house. You better give me a contract and pay me if you want me to take this ring.
Does he still? I would have sold it. I would have said, okay, I'll sell it.
No, he told him to shove it. And
does he still live in Chicago or?
No, he lives outside of Chicago. I'm
somebody
not going to
tracked him down. Yeah, somebody tracked him down. A reporter.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, and this was years ago, so this could be totally out of date.
Yeah, I remember that
at
years
the time
ago.
he was still in hiding.
I hope he's not in hiding anymore. If anybody knows, tell us, because I really hate to think that 18 years later, this guy is still hiding, especially since they won the darn World Series.
I don't think he's hiding. I think it at
just
this
shut
point,
up. Oh, it was me with the Cubs.
I don't think it's hiding. I think at this point he's like, I don't want anything to do with you. You've ruined my life. So
yeah, I mean, I would be curious if that like another fan base, if that happened to, that was a Met fan that screwed up the Mets' chances of winning, or
they do their own job doing that.
But then again, Met fans have Nolan Ryan syndrome. Anytime the Mets get rid of or trade a player, oh my God, he's going to be doing well. Look at Travis Denard. He's in the World Series. We let him go. And it drives me nuts on the message boards. But that's another time for another show.
Yeah. So speaking of another time and another show, that's probably where we should end tonight's show. So how about that for a transition? So thanks everyone for following us, watching us, listening to the show. We're so glad to have you. So appreciative of your patronage. So Dan, if our listeners would like to hear more from you, where can they follow you online?
You can follow me online at all social media platforms at DanLaw83.
Mark, how about yourself? Where can our listeners follow you?
Ballpark Hunter across social media, all social media platforms. Check out my latest video of Indiana High School Sunken Gems. It's getting a lot of attention. See what all the hype is about. So Ballpark Hunter across your favorite social media platforms.
And Dave, where can our listeners follow you on the interwebs?
Profan9 on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can follow my Stadium Journeys on Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. So remember, everyone, you can find all of our 2,500 and counting stadium reviews, news items, and other feature stories on our website, stadiumjourney.com. Connect with us on our social media channels at Stadium Journey. You can find audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast just by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on whatever podcast search app you use. A video simulcast can be found on Stadium Journey's YouTube page, just like the one you're watching right now, if you're watching, that is. Our classic back catalog of episodes can still be found at vocnation.com. And join us for our live streams every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at twitch.tv/DanLaw83. Are we going to do a visit segment, guys? Or
and we do that after we end this episode.
After this one, okay. So for
we
those
talk
of you who are
about
watching,
it for after.
We probably should have mentioned that beforehand. But anyway, for those of you who are watching the live stream, we're going to you can stay tuned. We're going to review our recent road trip in just a few minutes. For those of you who are listening or watching this at a later time, check out part 2 of this week's episode wherever you found part 1. In 2 weeks, we'll be back again. We'll be talking to our old friend Andrew Bowes and talking about college football. So once again, thanks everyone for your support. For Dan, Mark, and Dave, this is Paul wishing you all safe stadium journeys and close games. Hope to see you on the road.